Right. We're back in action.
All right, yeah. So it's streaming to my Twitter and YouTube now. So
Oh, that's good. Okay.
yeah, it's working. So real quick, let's talk about the promotion first. Myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo had some success. Did you see Gavin Marshall, 2026 quarterback at UNLV?
Who? Gavin Marshlick?
Yeah, UNLV.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Barry Odom is the new coach there. Coach Marion, who used to be the wide receiver coach for Jordan Addison at Pitt, and then was at Texas last year. Both liked him enough to offer him a scholarship. So that's big news there. Kyle Mosley was at Louisville. I'm not sure if Louisville is going to offer, but he's starting to take bigger visits. That's the defensive tackle. Malik Craswell was at Clemson. On and on. So there's some good things happening. Who else? Tanner Huckfeld, the quarterback from Texas, getting a lot more attention. The 2026 quarterback from Texas, he's getting a lot more attention. Cash Ferris, the safety from Arkansas, getting a lot of camp invites, so he's going to get his opportunity to show out in person to some schools that might not have invited him before that. I know I'm missing a ton. Carson Rauner with the Navy offer, a quarterback from Nebraska, he's going to get more. There's just a ton of stuff going on. So if you're interested in being promoted socially on all our channels, get noticed by coaches, which is clear that it works and is happening, it's myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo.
It is not only is it clear that it works, but it's at another level from what we probably, when we first talked about it, could even imagine. And what's great is, I'm now perusing through my own following to see all the coaches that follow us. So to make sure that it's unbelievable how many are following us. So following me, I know you're the same, and probably have different guys that are following you that are following me. But as I was going through it, just to really kind of get a grasp of it, it's unbelievable. The quarterbacks and linemen are having radical success, meaning offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and the quarterbacks, right? Which I think makes obviously all the positions are having success, but makes a ton of sense, right? Because what are some of the harder positions to evaluate? Quarterback and then O-line and D-lineman, because there's a lot of different characteristics that make those guys up, right? And what they can do. Different systems require different people. And I think this promo is able to bring those things to light. Like, I think you very eloquently, when you talk about the players, point out a lot of those things in a really, really great way. And I think it's so unique. And we talk about this all the time, but it's just darn true, right? You can't trump experience. I mean, the bottom line is living on this earth and being in the industry as long as we have just has a monumental impact. And it's great because the relationships of success that we've had over the years, we're just able to build on it, and we're putting great players out there. I think the players that have been on board with us are just super smart in how they've gone about it. And it's just fantastic. It's become, and as we get more and more guys on board, we help more and more people. But it's become super exciting as we're seeing these guys one by one, where we thought, we believed it would come to fruition, but now we're seeing it.
Yeah, and not to Caleb Gates, linebacker, who's in JUCO right now, also flew out to Clemson, was invited to their spring game. Coach Bill Manis, who helps us next level, he got these guys invited to Clemson. I know he was involved in getting Mosley invited to Louisville and all that stuff too. So, you're going to partner with people. Like I said, I'm not going to call a school. UConn is an example. They just invited Marshalik up for a visit, and his dad texted me. He goes, "Yeah, you must have some pull up there in Connecticut." I said, "No, I don't. I mean, I could. I know Jim Mora Jr. I know coaches up there. I don't do that. I don't call coaches. That would be a much bigger expense than what we charge." It's the promotion, just the promotion. That's it. I mean, UConn, all those coaches, Jim Mora follows me. His recruiting people follow me. Some of those staffers I've known for a very long time. They follow me. They see, Marshall-X retweets appearing. They're interested in them. They invite them to camp. That's just the way it works. So, when we have these guys, a lot of times it's our videos promoting them, but it's a lot of times it's retweeting what they're doing and what they're saying and things that are occurring for them. So when you get a Marshall-X invited to UConn, then that's going to be retweeted, and Rutgers and Syracuse and the schools that recruit against those, the programs are going to notice. And then you get the traction and the momentum going. So it's kind of happening without. The best part about it is we're doing the videos and continually doing the videos, continually pushing people out there. And it just happens on its own. I don't think I've done a Marshall-X video in a long time. He was an original 6-month guy, way back when we started, way back. I mean, last June. It's only been 10 months. And I kind of grandfathered him in because his dad, was helping us talk to parents. And if parents need to talk to anybody, they can talk to a parent of a kid who it's really helped. Now it's gotten him offers. But I hadn't done a Marshall-X video in a very long time. But what I had done is retweeted his videos from camp or his, news of being invited to this camp or this camp. And that in itself gets attention, and it leads to things. Did I expect – he's got another offer too that he's going to announce shortly. Did I expect it to lead to offers? I really don't know what to expect. I know it'll lead to attention, and that's it. Attentions could be camp invites. It could be offers. It could be anything. It could be schools swinging by your school in the spring, and you weren't expecting them to. So, with the program itself, you're going to get more attention. And with that attention, some are going to like you, some aren't going to like you. That's just life, but at least you're not in a vacuum anymore. So we also have the transfer one too, which I haven't forgotten. I mean, that was my idea. The transfer portal was so busy in that 45-day window in December into January. I thought we'd have a lot of people, signing up for that. It hasn't happened because that cycle works so fast. And there's kids after that 45-day period that are in the portal right now that need our help, that don't have a home. The portal just opened Saturday. It's 15 days. So it's April 15th to the end of April 30th.
Right.
There's going to be a bunch of kids jumping in there. We're following it at Farrell Portal. My guy, Mark, who we call Portal Jesus. He's on every one of them. We're updating offers and entries, but if you want special promotion, for the portal, and we've had a few kids that have gotten scholarship offers from it. I think it's myfootballcamps.com/transfer. And I'm telling you, that's going to be something. It's going to be something. Now we've moved to the yearly membership. We've moved to the 6-month membership. We don't do one-timers anymore. We don't do 3-timers. We don't do 6-timers. It's just a year or 6 months. With the portal, it's still $300, which is the cheapest of all, for promotion. So if you're in the portal and you don't have a home, or you're looking for a home, or you need attention, that's part of it too.
There's no doubt. And you can see that below, myfootballcamps.com/D1-transfer, which is the opportunity to go to that. So if you're in a trip, then, and that's happening now, like you said, it's a tight window from a transfer standpoint. You can't, I don't know. It's confusing to me that why the transfer guys wait on, then they're stuck out in the wind. It's like, dude, you get this done quick, and then you're going to have the opportunity that you need to be able to play at a new place. If you wait, and you also need to disclose. I want to bring this up too. If you are a transfer guy, we need to know as much as we can about your when we do the promo on your video and stuff. We could use a little bit of background information, you know what I mean, as well as to like why, what is your reasoning for transferring, just so we can do that video in the right way. Because I think that's helpful, because if we just, some of these guys did not have a ton of film, but were top players in high school, but we don't know why you're transferring or what happened. You're just kind of in the dark. We need to know a little bit of that. That helps us. make it better.
Yeah, and coaches are going to find that out anyway. So, I mean, if you do sign up for it and we put
Right.
you out there and there's something, whether it's an off-field incident or an injury or whatever it is, they're going to find out. They don't offer scholarships without their due diligence. So if you do tell us that up front, it's certainly going to be helpful.
It's helpful.
To us. If you don't, it's okay, but they're going to find out. We've had a few transfer kids, that haven't got the attention that they thought they were going to get. And I know it's not the promotion issue. I know there's something else, and that's okay. It's hard. I mean, it's hard out there. You get recruited as a high school kid, you get offers, you get injured or something happens where you're homesick or you're getting some off-field issue or academic issues or whatever, and then all of a sudden nobody wants you anymore. And you go from that high school experience of, constant attention to crickets, you get impatient, you get scared, it's all about persistence. Every bit of this is about persistence. I just talked to Carson Rauner's dad, last week through text and, would it be beneficial to continue? Yeah, because it's a marathon, not a sprint. And, this is the thing with quarterbacks, especially 2024 quarterbacks. And Tanner Huckfeld, I mentioned earlier, is a 2025 and Marshall looks at 2026. So, but if you're a 2024 quarterback like Rauner and you see all these quarterbacks committing, and this is the quarterback domino, and it happens all the time around the spring of that, that particular entering their senior year, you get nervous. You're like, oh my gosh, this team took this kid and this team took this kid. And now we're down to the middling power fives taking kids. And then that's going to trickle to the group of five. But I will tell you this, the group of fives usually wait longer, some of them, and the FCS wait forever because they don't want to waste their time. There's no point taking a commitment for an FCS quarterback if he's going to get that offer in July after going to camp. The big schools, the Alabamas, the Notre Dames, the Clemsons, the USCs, Texas, they're not for us anyways. They're not going to offer our kids for the most part. I mean, we could get a Kyle Mosley, who gets West Virginia, and he could end up getting Louisville, and he could blossom into a 15 offer Power 5 kid. That happens. But for the most part, most of our kids need the attention, and that doesn't mean Alabama is going to come calling. So it's persistence, consistency. Just keep doing it. I'm telling you, there's frustration at all levels. You get frustrated. Marshall X dad was worried and frustrated. Now he's on cloud 9. Now, again, things change. UNLV offers. That doesn't mean you're QB1 on their board for 2026. Doesn't mean you could commit this second. But what it means is you got enough attention that you can build a relationship with those coaches now and see if that's where you want to go and see if they want you as their guy. And before, you would never have this option. So, there's anxiety and patience. It just takes continual effort, and it doesn't stop when you get one offer because that offer may not be committable. You keep pushing through and you keep with the program and you will end up having success. But, there's no magic elixir to this. And I've been having a lot of kids ask me, what about this company? What about this company? They want me to do this, and this. I'll be honest with you. If I've heard of them, I'll tell you. If I've heard of them and they're a ripoff, I'll tell you. If I've heard of them and they're okay, I'll tell you. If I haven't heard of them, I'll tell you. That part of the advice portion is included as well in the membership. So I think it's pretty cheap. It's still a convincing effort, because people think we're just going to take their money and run. But the testimonials are starting to run in even for more and more now with all these exciting new, offers and visits and all this stuff for kids. So it'll bear fruit. It'll work itself out as far as the questions of whether this works or not. I think we're still maybe another 6 months to a year away from that. But eventually it's going to be like, okay, what is this? It's going to go from that to, oh, this is that. We got to do that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we just ran our All Northeast camp and I had about 4 or 5 parents. So this is interesting because we do these videos every week, unless I screw up like last week. But we do these videos every week. We talk about it. We talk some college football. We talk we'll talk about a couple things today. But we talk about this stuff each week. And we ran the all Northeast camp. We had a ton of really good talent. It was, I thought, pretty similar to the Winterfest, as far as there was some really good talent. We had a ton of really good QBs at this too. But what I thought was interesting is about a handful of parents came up and was asking me. They don't yet understand the wording on it, like the promo, but they were asking me essentially about the promo, right? I gave out my number, like, hey, after camp, shoot me a text, or I'll go look your number up on, obviously in the registration, just give you a call, and I'll follow up you about it. So I realized that because that was the first camp I think I had run, because I've been doing all the 7-on-7 stuff with the club. I think it's the first camp I had run myself since Winterfest. So it was interesting because Winterfest, I think we were more talking to people about it after, when they were talking to us, but actually had people come up to me before the camp started, that were kids that were legitimate recruits who were, for whatever reason, like, they're not getting recruited, but they were getting recruited, maybe not in the level that we thought they should be. You know what I mean? And they were very good in the camp too. So it was very interesting, and we had some kids from farther away places for that exact reason, from a recruiting standpoint too. So that's what I think is also interesting. So they kind of want to get in front of me or you, so they want to know, are we worthy of being, a promo kid? So I thought that was interesting. You would have found that, well, you would just walk back and forth and then waited for me to talk.
Yeah, I wouldn't have talked to a person. Probably.
Right.
I would have just avoided everybody like I do. But yeah,
that's interesting though.
But that's what it should be, honestly. It's like, honestly, it should be, because it is. I mean, we look at kids. If there's a kid who sucks, we're not gonna.
Yeah, there's
no offense. We're not going to promote you, because I don't need, coaches in my DMs saying, what the hell is this kid doing on your timeline? So we do select, but again, it's different from the ranking system, where I used to have to compare Trevor Lawrence to Justin Fields, and, Nick Pitt, like come up with like differences between them as to why is one in the country and number two in the country. I look on the films that the kids and the parents send me, and I see if there's something there, whether it's, and I just think I think of getting college paid for. I think of it's partial scholarship D2. Is it FCS full scholarship, FCS partial scholarship? Is it even higher than that? That's what I look for. If I was a college coach looking at this film, and I don't put myself in Alabama or Iowa or Georgia Southern, I just say, I'm as a college coach, would I spend any money on this player? Any? And if the answer is yes, then he can be part of the promotion. But my goal for this has always been, when you and I partnered, has always been to be selective about it. Be selective about, because my hope was, we're going to get 100 kids want to sign up for this every week, and I can't do 100, so, and we're not close to there yet. And honestly, I think it's slightly slower than I thought it would be, but it's more successful than I thought it would be too. And again, this comes down to effort. I mean, I'm not a salesperson. You just mentioned that I would be at that camp and I'd be walking back and forth and not talking to anybody. I'm kind of an antisocial person if I don't know you. Not an introvert, but certainly not a socially, go out and talk to everybody type of person. So it's not like I'm, talking to 20 people a day about the promotion. I literally believe I talk to maybe one person a day about the promotion, which is stupid. It's dumb. I should be talking to 10 people a day, and 10 people a day would be, potentially one new sign up a day, and on and on. We talked about this offline. But eventually I want this business to be big, and I want it to be selective. Right now it's small, but it's still selective, and we're going to get there. But see, I got to tell myself, just like I tell these parents, this is a grind. This is a marathon. Every kid that gets an offer through our program, or every kid that gets a visit, a visit invitation, or any kid who gets mentioned by another camp program, or any kid who gets a summer camp invite, it is one more notch towards the goal of people seeing this, and saying, well, how did he get that? I want that. And then they'll sign up. So it's a grind for us too. It's well worth it. And listen, the economy sucks. It just sucks. I get it. And I've been talking to a lot of people, we've been talking about payment plans, and we've been talking about this, that, and the other. And people, are ready to do it, want to do it for their kids. And I would do it for my kid if I had a kid. And then something comes up, car breaks down or some bill comes up. And I get it. I understand. Life is hard right now. Everything's expensive. If you could do it, great. But we're not going to be the hard sale type of guys either. I'm not going to have you choose between, taking the bus to work or promoting your son. That's your choice. And I'm never going to be like, well, this is more important than that. So I guess I'm saying I suck at sales, but the results are going to sell for us.
Yeah.
Is what's going to happen here.
Well, that's what's starting to happen. Obviously, when you get to the point of testimonials and just kids getting the offers, like you don't even have, honestly, you don't even have to even get to that. This kid had nothing. Now he has something. He has offers. So that's the incredible part. And again, it's the high level too. It's so many guys at higher levels, which also I think is a tribute to our ability to look at what they have, what they can do well, and point it out in an easy way. Because when a college coach sees it in his feed, they can watch it quickly and kind of get oh yeah, that makes sense, or Dave's batshit crazy on this one, or Mike's batshit crazy on this one, but this one makes sense. So I mean, I just think that makes it easier for them, right? And then obviously the retweet, let's say you get 2,000 views on a video, okay, on your own, right? And now we retweet it. I look like a week later and I see like, whoa, 15,000 views on this video, right? So those things are very helpful for the prospect being on the promo. Like we're retweeting them, like, when you at coach. It's funny because college coaches don't want to be at whatever their handle is because they don't want to have to deal with it all. But if you at Coach Human me and you're one of the guys in our promo, you better believe I'm retweeting it. Like,
yeah, 100%.
It comes right into my, and you know what's great about it? It comes right into my feed. I don't have to do anything. I see it, boom, I retweet it. Right, it comes in there. And so not only do I check on the guys that we work with, but also that you tag me, and I say, like, kids ask me this. Oh, I encourage you to tag me if you post something, because I will retweet it, and it'll basically whatever you have right now, you'll get double the retweets, and that goes for Mike. So now it's triple the retweets, right? Like if you had 2,000 and then I get you another 2,000 and Mike gets you another 2,000. That's 6,000. That's 3 times the people that looking at your original post, which is, I mean, that's what has to happen in today's modern recruiting process. And I want to fold into it because we talked about it briefly, but the cool thing is now with this new NCAA rule, right? With you can make an official visit. It's not just what was it when I played 5, I guess.
It's been 5 forever, and
forever, yeah.
Now it's not 5 anymore.
Now it's unlimited
in August,
unlimited so you could take 1 per school, right? All 100 some odd Division I schools, if you really wanted to.
Yep.
They all offered you, right? Listen, and I'm sure, especially the 5-stars are definitely going to be doing a visit. But look, if you're an FCS player, I remember years ago I had a kid who literally was like, I coached at a smaller school, and our team had eventually became a great program, had but he was on the early teams, which are not that good, but he was a star. He was a 6'5" lineman. He ended up going to UPenn. He literally had so many FCS offers but he didn't know what to do. Like he did not like he visited Penn, he visited I can't remember like one other Ivy League school. Then he visited like I don't know like New Hampshire or Maine, you know. But literally, he probably should if he was able to go on 10 places because FCS, you don't know as much about those schools, right? Everybody knows the bigger school, so they really need to kind of get on campus to see what that place is about. So I could see the benefits of it. I could see the negatives of it too. And there's no doubt I could see the negatives of it. But it is a really, really interesting thing. You're going to be able to visit as many schools officially as you want if they will have you. You know, I'm curious your thoughts on it because it's very interesting. I see both the pros and cons on it, you know, on both sides. But
No, I like it. I mean, it gives you more options. So then now they allow official visits in the spring. This has been a couple of years. Before it used to be just during and after the season. That's good. So then you could probably get 3 during the spring. And then, during your season, it's hard because some teams have Saturday games, as far as high school teams. And, your coach doesn't want you to go out to a Friday game after you played a Friday night football game and going out to an official visit or whatever. But then after that, I think less visits have been taken officials since the early signing period has occurred overall. And I think colleges can certainly afford it. So now it's a situation where if you're a kid with 50 offers and you want to take 8, take 8. And I'm not saying take all 8. You don't need to. Most kids don't need 5, honestly. But
right.
I think it's good, just because it gives you as many options as you need. And if you're really meticulous about the process, in the old days, the what was his name, Willie Williams days or whatever, back in the early 2000s when official visits were crazy and kids were ordering 10 lobsters for dinner and setting off fire extinguishers in the hotel rooms that had hot tubs, and those days are gone as far as the official visits and the craziness of all that stuff. So now the kids take less advantage of official visits. They don't go on them as much to party. They go on them more as business trips. And I think that's important. And it's a good change the NCAA has made. The calendar has changed it a little bit too, as far as coaches having more evaluation opportunities, during the spring and heading into the football season. Everything is changing for the better for recruits and for coaches when it comes to evaluating kids. The issue, I think, is going to come down to the second level kids, the third level kids, the ones that we deal with the most. How long is a school going to stay in for their top 3 choices at defensive tackle? And number 4 is one of our guys, maybe. With the official visits, a kid could string you along a lot more because he's got the official visits. Like if he has to cut down to 5, his 6th team is out. They know they're not getting an official visit. They can move on. Now he could say, I got a top 8. I'm going to take officials to all 8 of them, string along that 6, 7, and 8 that have no chance. And it might hurt the kids, the secondary level kids, which means you have to be more patient. You have to be more determined. You have to stay the course even more and wait things out. You can commit early, no problem. But if you don't have a ton of options, don't get impatient. Don't lose your mind. If Kyle Mosley wants to go to West Virginia, go. But if he's holding out for an offer, for one of the other Power 5 schools, he can wait until the season, see who goes where, who commits where, and then see if an offer comes late. BJ Raji, you remember him from New Jersey. He got his offer in, I think, late January to BC. Went there, first rounder, great NFL career, millionaire now. Had to wait. And sometimes a lot of these NFL guys that you look at, Travis Kelce's of the world and stuff, they didn't have offers. They didn't have a lot of opportunity. They had to wait, and they ended up getting what they wanted out of it. And now also with the portal, if you don't get what you want, go to an FCS, go to a D2, do well, and then you can get to the Power 5 you want. But it's all about patience, all of it. Anybody who's impatient in this process, you're gonna hurt yourself anxiety-wise. You have to let it play out and wait.
There's no doubt about it, and you have to approach it, I think, with a diligence in the process. Like you can't
you have to take care of each step of the process in order to get yourself out there and be able to get people to recognize you. Because if you just try to skip over to this, I see this a lot in the 7-on-7, area where, because I call 7-on-7 the social media sport. Because it really is like, I don't know if you've ever seen, but like we streamed last year, one of the tournaments we ran, we streamed the games, right? And I went back and rewatched the actual games, some of the games, and it's like for TV wise, it's boring as heck TV wise. But for social media, it's amazing because it's a one clip star thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a one clip. You'll play the whole game. Mostly average things happen, but there's one or two plays in the game that are phenomenal, right? And those are the ones that are clipped and shown. And the players that rely solely on that, it's I tell my own guys that that's a mistake. Like, go visit schools. Obviously you want to be able, just from a skill standpoint, keep up your skills. That helps keep up your skills. And there are occasional situations where you put a clip out there that's so phenomenal that it does get you recognized. But you want to still do all of the process. You're not doing one in lieu of the other. And that's why I think our market, going back to our promo, it's so important. You can't do one in lieu of the other. You can't go to these things and sit in a vacuum and hope that someone finds your Twitter page, right? Like, you need help in that process, unless you already are, one of the premier guys. And then in that case, you don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need anybody, right? So, but outside of that, you really have to follow the steps in the process. And I see when people skip the steps or try to say, this is what's going to get me there. And if it doesn't, then they're like, whoa. And that's what happens most of the time. It doesn't get you there. It's the rare instance that you jump so high on a ball that you catch, that someone happens to catch on video, that it works in your favor. Those are the rarities. The normal is to follow the process.
Yeah. And if you to ask me, I have $1,000. Should I go to these 4 camps? And I know it's a tough answer for you because you run camps and stuff, but I have $1,000. I can go to 4 camps, $250 a pop, or I could do your promo. My flat answer to everybody who is do the promo. I can get you more attention in the promo than you can get at those 4 camps. And that's not saying camps are bad. Camps are good for competition. They're good for attention, all that stuff. But the promotion is for everybody. It's going to hit everybody. It's going to hit every coach. There's no coaches at camps. They're not allowed to be there. So barring summer camps, of course, summer camps I think are very valuable to go to college summer camps and stuff like that. Yep. But if you have the finances to do both, because camps are going to keep you sharp. Camps are going to gauge your level of competition versus other players of similar skill or higher skill to get you better, or lower skill to show you that you're ahead of them. And it's regional competition. It keeps you sharp when there's not actual helmet and pad football going on, and it's going to get you attention if you do really well there. And as you mentioned, if you do a viral 7-on-7 thing or whatever, you can get a lot of attention, and it's going to give you extra film too.
Well, that's the thing that I like about it. Combined with our promo. I'm almost like, you know what? You go to a camp, dude. Send me good. I'll look. I did it with who did I just do it with recently? I took their camp stuff. It wasn't one of our camps, but once they come to our camps, I did Xander's. That was, I think, my first thing with Xander was, let me take this camp. This camp footage is really good. Like him breaking up passes and running. I'm like, I'll take this, So that part, utilize, and including summer college camps on this. Like, let us allow you to become. We're like your promotion recruiting coordinator, right? Like you got stuff. We'll take that stuff, and whether it's retweet, whether it's put a video together, to put that into a package that continues to get out there, which I think is really becomes very valuable. And you go to a Rutgers camp and you do great things, and you have some great clips. Rutgers didn't offer you. Great. It doesn't just sit there that you didn't do anything. if you're in our promo program, we're going to retweet that, and one of our coaches that are following us will probably see it, or we'll put that into a video that we put a voiceover over, or and talk about what we see that we really like, and that will help you. If it didn't help you at that college that you went to visit, now we can get exponential exposure for you outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you can afford both, do it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because it allows us to, I've parents sending me video from camps. We've done the highlight videos for their season. Their next season is 4.5 months away. We can keep putting that stuff out, or we could put out fresh stuff. And that's what camps are valuable for. But if you have to choose between the two, for me, it's a no-brainer. Put your money into this because you're going to reach a whole lot more people. I was just looking at UNLV and I was thinking to myself, what's the connection there? Because there's a connection to every school. And I've known Barry Odom since he was at Missouri. I've known Brennan Marion, the wide receiver coach, and he's the offensive coordinator there now since he was at Pitt. But I just realized that the director of player personnel there is a former intern of mine. A guy who worked with me just for a few months, as a potential analyst. And he went from, MikeFarrellSports.com, which has happened a few times. We've had guys go into, paid writing gigs at one of the, big recruiting sites, or go off into college, to be, whether it's work in the video department or work in the, player personnel department or in the recruiting departments. We've had a lot of guys that have come through already, and we're only a year old. And so Mark, the guy who worked with us for a few months, is the director of player ops there. And I didn't just kind of put it together in my head. And I'm not saying that's why or anything. I just like when a kid gets an offer from a school, whether it's Marshall or UNLV or UConn or West Virginia or Louisville or whatever, I try to think like, do I know somebody there? I always do. Are they paying attention to what we're putting out there? I assume they are, because most of these kids that we deal with have had nothing before as far as attention, and now they got it. So it's also, kind of who I'd love to prop up a business where I charge $15,000 per client to get them a scholarship, make the phone calls, all that. But no one's going to pay $15,000, first of all. Secondly, it's a lot of pain in the butt work. It's a lot of me calling in favors. You call in a favor to any college, you got to return 6. That's how it is. And I don't want to call in any favors to anybody, because I'm done with that. I did that for 25 years. But, for $1,000 for you to be noticed, I mean, it's really a no-brainer. So we keep pounding that point home. Speaking of a kid who doesn't need any notice, Arch Manning, as expected, struggled in the spring game at Texas. He's not ready. I knew he wasn't ready. He's overrated. I know he's overrated. We'll see. He could end up being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, because you don't bet against the Manning. I mean, Peyton was, and Eli was. So why wouldn't he? Now, again, he's not. He's the nephew, and he's Cooper's kid. He's not their kid, but he's going to be good, but he's certainly not ready now. But Sark names Quinn Ewers the starter. That's the stunner. Malik Murphy had a really good spring game. He was hurt most of last year. I don't know who the backup is. Arch is going to play. He's going to play in enough games to keep that red shirt alive. But Quinn Ewers being the starter there, no surprise. And I'm not going to say, I'm the only one who has Arch below number 2 in the country. Most people had him number 1 in the country overall. ESPN has him number 2 in the country overall. I barely have him in the top 100, and I have him number 8, I think, at quarterback itself. And I could look stupid, or I could look genius. And this isn't like a, pat myself on the back thing. I just know, coming from that competition, he's not ready. I know Sark had to come in and say this is a competition between Ewers and Manning. I thought he should have said Malik Murphy too, the kid who used to be a 5-star out of California.
Right.
I don't know why he didn't. If I'm Malik Murphy, I'd be pretty pissed about that. If I'm Malik Murphy, I'm jumping in the portal, because Ewers is the starter, and I know Manning's going to leapfrog me. But I'm not Malik Murphy, and I don't know his situation. But Ewers is the starter. It's never going to. You imagine you name Arch the starter in the spring, because that's what fans want, and he's not ready, and you risk your job as Sark, and then you send Ewers back to the portal again. He's immediately back in there. So this was no surprise whatsoever. What is a little bit more of a surprise is Carson Beck is the leading candidate to be the starter at Georgia over Brock Vandegrift, who was a 5-star out of high school. Carson Beck kind of wasn't very good out of high school. He had a 4-star ranking by most. I think we had him as a 4-star. I didn't agree with it at all. He wasn't that good. And he's really developed into a very efficient, good quarterback, doesn't turn it over. That's what Georgia needs. They want to play with strong defense. They want to run the ball, play power football, and get a guy who doesn't screw up. And I think that's what Carson Beck's going to be for them.
Yeah, I think that was much a surprise. What was, to me, from Texas standpoint, how Ewers has really worked on his overall image as well, which I think is interesting. Cutting the mullet and working on some of the kind of finer details of it. I just wonder if that was him just deciding he no longer wanted that kind of like rebel image, or he was told to do it. But he did look better in this. I don't know if, someone once said that I think it's important to look at like position by position, not the overall score in spring games, but he looked much better, compared to what I saw in the.
They set you up to succeed or fail. I mean, in the spring game, if you want your defense, like Ohio State, if you want your defense to look good, you'll set it up so that the defense looks better. And then if you're Ryan Day, the narrative is, oh boy, we got the defense going. Do we worry about the offense? And of course you don't worry about the offense at Ohio State. You got, 2 first-round wide receivers. You got amazing running backs. The offensive line's loaded. I mean, that's just loaded. You're just going to plug somebody in there, whoever it is at quarterback, and you'll be fine. But if the narrative going into the spring game is your defense stinks and it got, exposed by Michigan the last 2 years, and obviously they couldn't stop Georgia. Georgia couldn't stop them either. Then you set it up to make the defense look good. That's what the spring game is. And so you set it up for Ewers to be successful because you don't want a nightmare situation. So Arch Manning, in his defense, was running with the third team. He had no time to throw. It's all like young offensive linemen who will not sniff the field next year. And Ewers is back there, and he's got the number one, offense. He's got Xavier Worthy. Of course, you're going to make it so that he looks at it. Now, he could still suck, but you're going to set him up to be as successful as possible. And that's the way the narrative is played. Now, with the portal, it's even more important to play this properly. So Notre Dame is a good example. Tyler Buckner was the starter last year, got injured, knows the system really well. Even though Tommy Rees is gone, the offensive system is kind of still in place. Sam Hartman comes over from Wake Forest, doesn't know the system at all. The rumors out of Notre Dame are Sam Hartman struggling to pick it up. And Buckner looks sharper than ever. That's what they want people to think, because most of these are closed, if you remember, other than the actual spring games, which are just kind of BS, watered down play calling. That's what they want people to think. You want them to think that. And Sam Hartman, they know it. They're in the quarterback room and say, listen, Sam, we're going to say you're struggling a little bit, all right? Because we don't want, people to think that you're picking up this offense. And we don't want them to think you're overconfident. We're not going to say you're lost, but we're going to say this. It's just it's all scripted, but it's also the things you don't tell the quarterback. You don't tell Buckner that, listen, we went out and got Sam Hartman. He was the jewel of the transfer portal class. He didn't come here to sit. He's going to play. He's going to start. You don't tell Buckner that because he might jump in the portal. So spring football is kind of funny because it's kind of scripted and geared towards the narrative you want people to hear, but people buy into it 100% as fact, and not a lot of it's fact.
Well, yeah, it was at the Rutgers spring practice, and it's an easy thing to say. Like when you see the 1s versus 2s, the 2s don't have a chance. You might have a 2 that's on the rise that makes plays, you know what I mean? But as a unit, the 2s don't have a chance against the 1s, because as a unit, there's multiple guys who are already penciled in on the ones, and the twos, there might be a rising kid, one or two of them that end up taking a one's job, but most of them are stuck in two land, right? So it's natural. And then all of a sudden, when you see them go 1-on-1 versus one, you're like, wait a minute, that guy looked really good. And now he's 1 versus 1. It doesn't look the same,
Right.
So, and that's exactly. And when you're actually better off going to the practices than the spring games, in my opinion, because the practices, they will go 1 versus 1 a lot more. They will try to see who really is good versus just doing 1 versus 2 and the ones look great, and 2 versus 1 where the twos get beat up, and you might see the one guy that's obviously going to move up. Because you're right, when you go to spring game, they're not going to put the people that they want in a good situation to be in a bad situation. They might do that in practice. In a regular, you go there on a Saturday before the spring game, that might happen so they can really see. But you're not, and that's going to be closed, by the way, which is what you said. That's going to be closed anyway. So you're not going to see. So whatever they spew out there is going to be from the coaches, because other than select people that they know they can trust, they're not going to have other people out there seeing it.
Yeah, and you have to spit out positivity. Even if you're 1-11, Colorado, everything's got to be a positive spin, which is great. I mean, there's hope in the spring. Everybody's undefeated in the spring. Everybody's looking forward to a great year and all that stuff too. But for me, the coach speak is always interesting because they have to do it. People also, Lane Kiffin got criticized greatly this past season for not coming out and recommitting to Ole Miss. And I'm as critical of him as ever, but I'm also that hypocritical idiot that says, I hate when coaches say I'm focused on this team when we all know they're leaving,
Right.
like the Scott Frost example after they went undefeated UCF. And he's like, I love this team. I'm the UCF head football coach. When a day later it comes out, he signed a major deal with Nebraska, and we all knew that was happening. That to me was lying. But when Lane Kiffin tells the truth and he goes, I don't know what to tell you. I'm the Ole Miss coach today. I don't know about the other noise about Auburn, and doesn't come out and vehemently deny that he's in discussions with Auburn, then we criticize him as well. Coaches, there's no getting it right. Everybody's critical of them, and everything they say is questioned. And here I am questioning Sark, for saying it's Ewers versus Manning and leaving out Malik Murphy. And I'm also questioning him because it was never going to be anybody but Ewers. But that's what he has to say. So I guess, as a media member, I'm part of the problem. But no one wants to read the facts either. No one wants to say, hey, Sark is doing this because he has to do it, and this is what he has to say. Or such and such coach, is saying, I'm Luke Fickell's saying I'm Cincinnati's coach for life. He has to say that, just the way it is. Everybody has to lie. And so that's what college football is about. But you just have to. You have to lie in recruiting. You have to lie in, you have to lie in your position group rooms. You have to lie in your team meetings. You have to lie to the media about this, that, and the other. You have to, because anybody who comes. Remember Jim Mora Jr., our guy, right up here, UConn, your guy, your alma mater. He didn't lie. He said, I think he was with the Atlanta Falcons, and he said he would be very interested in the Washington Huskies job. I think it was Washington. I can't remember. Very interested in it. This was the middle of the Atlanta Falcons season. And they fired his ass later, late in that season, because he didn't lie. And he had to lie. He should have lied. He should have said, I'm the Falcons coach. I'm dedicated to them. I have no interest in going back to college. Just lie. So when you don't lie, you get punished. So you have to lie. And that's kind of what we're at in spring football. So how do you figure out what the lie is versus the not lie? You wait until the season, but it's not fun. I have people, I put up, something, the coaching debate, I did like, I forget which one it was. I did like 2 new coaches. Who were they? I think it was Purdue. No, it wasn't. I forget what it was. I did like 2 new coaches in a Power 5 conference. As I said, who's the better coach? One example I did was Deion Sanders versus Kenny Dillingham in the Pac-12. Who's the better coach? And the answer I get from snarky people is like, we'll find out in 4 years. Or how do we know now? Neither have coached a game. Well, that's not fun. I could write that and nobody's cares. What you want is debate. You want discussion. You want this, that, and the other. Quinn Ewers looks awesome. This is his year, man. He cut his hair. He's going to have that number 1 overall NFL draft, season. We're excited about it. Texas fans are excited about it. Blah, blah, blah. That's what you have to have. So we could all wait and see. We could say Ewers, who cares what he did in the spring? We got to see what happens during the season. That's not fun.
Could Ewers have a decent career, but nothing world beating, still go number 1 just because of his potential?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Matt Stafford had a decent career. Not that he was bad in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Russell going back. Yeah, arm talent changes. Jeff George changes everything. Will Levis being considered a first-round pick and being possibly one of the top 4 picks in the draft, hasn't been good at Kentucky. He's just not been good at all. But that arm changes everything. So, yeah, Ewers could go, 7-5 this season. It could be a disappointing year. He could throw a few more picks than he did last year and still easily go number 1 because scouts fall in love with the arm. And he's got the arm, man.
He definitely, his delivery, it's amazing delivery. I remember from the first time I saw some of these camp clips, it was like, well, this guy's delivery is incredible. It's funny. You were talking about how coaches have to lie in the, you remember the 80s and this. I was just talking to one of the guys that works with me, and you met him at the event, Derek, and he was, we were talking about Jamel Holloway. Remember Jamel Holloway? And and then after him, Charles Thompson. Jamel Holloway is the greatest option quarterback in my opinion, triple option quarterback of all time. And Charles Thompson could have replaced. He only had 1 year. Could have replaced him as that, but he was crazy he was all into all kinds of drugs and
his son is at Nebraska, Casey Thompson.
Okay, but he was unbelievable. So they were both unbelievable. And if Charles Thompson didn't have some of the issues, he would have been probably just as good as Jamel Holloway was. Actually, you could argue he might have been faster. So, it brought us to this whole thing about Barry Switzer, and in the old days, the guys were cheating outright, lie, you just kind of knew that they were kind of up to something, and it was just the personality was just accepted. Whereas nowadays, they're forced to lie but perceive that they're not lying. I don't know if that makes sense, right? They're lying, but they're telling you they're not lying. Back in the old days, Barry Switzer came in there for the Boz and walks right in there in a fur coat and comes into the cafeteria and says, "Where's the Boz?" And Boz was supposed to go. I don't remember if it was Texas or Texas Tech or one of those schools. He was already, or Texas A&M was already was going to go there. And he says, "You want one of these?" And it's a ring. And he's standing up in front of the whole cafeteria, calling the Boz out with a fur coat. You just know what that's all about, right? And the Boz says, "Hey, that's where I want to be," right? And goes to Oklahoma and that big person. But now we obviously have to have this undercover, I'm not lying, but I'm lying thing going on, which I find so humorous. You know what I mean? It's the old days, Jimmy Johnson and who was the guy who was after Jimmy Johnson? They were all just, "Hey, this is what we are. This is what we are." And, we're going to give Boz $50K to come to Oklahoma, and we're going to fly him in there. And that's how it is.
Yeah. The things that have changed, I think people back then, there was obviously a suspicion of cheating, and, now with social media, it depends on what lie is being told and how many people are willing to believe it. So if you get a coach saying, something, and he's got, a huge fan base and they're all over it and believing it, they kind of outshout the people who are saying that dude's cheating. He's cheating. We know he's cheating. And now with NIL, it doesn't matter. Cheating's gone.
Right.
You can break any rule you want now. But even before NIL, it was social media has kind of changed that a little bit, where there's enough people to buy the lies that can outshout the people that don't buy the lies. But it also becomes frustrating. I remember, Minka Fitzpatrick from New Jersey. He committed to Alabama. He was looking at Florida State. He almost flipped to Florida State at the last minute. He took a visit there and all that. He decided to sign with Alabama. And when he decided to sign, everybody, quote tweeting me or commenting on it, whatever, was doing the money bag sign or the cash sign or that he was bought. And that's just an example of how it kind of sucks, because knowing that kid, knowing his family, they'd never in a million years be on the take ever.
Right.
But they get lumped in with all the other garbage, of anybody who goes to Alabama at that time when Nick Saban was winning national championships every year and winning every recruiting title every year. They have to put up with the cash thing now. And so now with NIL, if a kid commits to Georgia, it's always cash, NIL this, NIL that, or whatever. And it really kind of lessens the integrity of the players themselves. So coaches have to lie, and it depends on the lie being told. Everybody but Oklahoma fans knew Barry Switzer was kind of a snake. But Oklahoma fans, they felt he was our guy. We love him to death. He would never cheat, but there weren't enough people to outshout anybody because there was no social media back then. Now with this idiotic social media, which I'm part of because you have to be, a narrative of a lie can be, it could be like verified. It could be like, oh my gosh, Kirby would never cheat in a million years, ever. We got the number one class 3 years in a row, and all of that was like by the book. And Georgia fans, there's such a strong base of Georgia fans that are willing to, abide by that and push that narrative out there, that the number of fans for Florida and Tennessee and those that call him a cheater, not enough of those people are really invested in it enough to outshout the Georgia fans. So it's kind of like who's the loudest on social media. But it does kind of suck. I mean, Bear Alexander is a 5-star kid from Texas, committed to Georgia, just entered the transfer portal, was one of the bigger surprises of the first couple of days of the transfer portal. Now everybody's talking money this, money that. If he ends up at Texas or Texas A&M, it's going to be money. If he ends up at USC, it's going to be money. I don't know. Maybe it is money. But the kid also could be homesick. He might not like Athens. He might have some personal situation going on, family-wise. We just lump everything into one thing now, and that narrative just owns the world. So it's kind of like the coach is lying. Quinn Ewers had to fight for his job. No, he didn't. The second that, and remember last year, it was Hudson Card versus Quinn Ewers, who's going to win the job. The second Quinn Ewers chose Texas over Texas Tech in the portal, leaving Ohio State, he was the starter, period. Didn't matter if he threw 5 picks in every practice, he was the starter. It's just the way it is. So, I love the narratives, but most of them.
One day you're going to get because are you familiar with ChatGPT and AI and?
Hey, freaking! So I watched that. I watched the 60 Minutes thing last night. Did you?
Well, I use the AI for some of these things I do.
Scary.
It's very scary. So like I'll do like, you have to ask it questions to get, what you want, right? Or some of the content you want. But like I do these like series of like the story of like, football story of Walter Payton. And, you ask it questions and then you could build your like video around it. And then I put it to right for this mic. So I take that and then I take some and then I'll like clean it up, things that might be mistakes or whatever, and then or things I want to inject, and then I take an AI voice, not me, but I take an AI voice and it goes over the video from over the video, and I have a whole video on it, and it's crazy how that works. So the only thing I'm really doing is kind of, I would say, massaging the content or editorial wise, but I'm taking the crux of what it gives and just making sure that it's accurate, because sometimes it's still inaccurate, but eventually it's going to be accurate based off of its inputs. And why I say that is like, you can maybe gear the inputs. We have this crazy political landscape. You could gear the inputs to have this take or that take,
Oh, yeah.
right? So, obviously, what Walter Payton did in his career is going to be somewhat cut and dry as far as athletically, but like, I don't know what Walter Payton's stance on whether giving back to the community is good or bad will be based off of what the person giving the inputs are dictating, right? So it's it's wild. Eventually, like what we think or believe, they're going to go to ChatGPT to get or some version of that to find out if that's true or not. Is that crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy. So there's an AI program called Bard at Google. Google.
Yep. Google.
It was on 60 Minutes last night, and I'm not long for this world. I don't have to worry about this. Not that I'm dying tomorrow, but
right,
I'm
you
not.
won't be here that long, right?
I'm not 20, so I don't have to worry about this garbage. But yeah, this program itself, it came up with an emotional story on its own with feelings just from what it's learned across the internet. And it learned Bengali language. It wasn't even programmed to do that. It read something in Bengali and then like an hour later learned the entire language just on its own without being asked to do it. And so they say within 5 years, everybody's going to have some sort of AI virtual assistant. And so this is the funny thing about football. It's going to impact, rankings, writing, everything. Like AI is going to dictate who's a 5-star versus, and not 5 years, but maybe in 10 years is going to dictate who a 5-star is versus, an actual human being and stuff like that. And
it's going to look at the film. AI is going to look at your huddle film and compare it to. It'll take all the
everybody
who ever played
football
in 2 seconds and say that's a 5-star.
Yep. And so they said the jobs that are impacted the most are, accountants are going to be, pretty much useless because AI can do that. Writers, there's going to be a lot less writers. And obviously the weird part about it is software programmers are going to be out of work because AI is just going to do the job for them. So, this whole thing I saw on 60 Minutes last night, and it's so funny because the guy at Google they're asking him pointed questions. He's being very honest about it. He's like, so we don't know how this works. He's like, no, we don't. And you're releasing this on society, like in a test version. It's like, yeah. He's like, but we don't know how the human brain works either. But they don't know how it works or what it's doing or what it's going to do. And this is all those movies you see, like
iRobot.
Yeah, iRobot with Will Smith. Like they put this out there and they let this thing go. It's gonna figure things out and take over the world. Maybe, I don't know. That's what people get anxious about. But like I said, if I was 20, I'd be worried about this. I'm not worried about it. But man, it's scary stuff. And even they said this is scary stuff we're dealing with here, and we invented it. So we're essentially creating something. But we did that with the internet. I mean, the internet has ruined the world. Yeah. Honestly, it really has. The internet, not just social media, but the internet itself. When I grew up in the 80s, and I was born in 1970, we didn't have nearly the problems we had. You didn't have mass shootings. You didn't have all this child abduction. Remember, kids were on a freaking milk carton missing. Right. And it was very rare for that to occur. And you could walk to school 2 miles in 3rd grade without a care. And then after the internet and all these creeps online and all this other stuff, now kids have to be picked up at their home by the bus. And you can never tell a kid, go over Jimmy's. I know it's 2 blocks away. Walk. No, you got to drop them off. Like,
you got to drop them off. You got to watch him go ring the doorbell. You got to watch him ring the doorbell.
Yeah, it's because of the internet.
Like when my kid goes to like his friend's house a few blocks down, like my natural instinct is when I was a kid is just like, go over there, ring the doorbell. But then he's like, I said, all right, I'll stand out there, make sure, But like literally when he goes in, I can't see him around the corner, because he doesn't come back in like 30 seconds or 45 seconds, like I'm like, oh God, something must be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, because the world has changed because of the internet in this capacity that I don't know. I can't say they created predators, but maybe it did create. I don't know what happened.
I know exactly what happened. This is my theory: is like you had a creep predator who had no way of communicating with another creep predator. They might have been a street away, they might have been a block away, or a town away. No idea how to communicate with that other creep predator, or a different country or different state. You get the internet, the creeps get to talk to each other. That makes it more acceptable because, oh my God, I'm not the only creep. This creep does it too. Let's talk about creep stuff. Let's figure out creep. And then more creeps find those creeps. And then all of a sudden you got like 1,000 creeps.
Society of creeps.
Yeah. And that's what social media too is. Like you get one idiot about football who talks to another idiot about football. Then you got 2 idiots and they're going to bring in 4 other idiots. Then you got a bunch of idiots spewing out stupid stuff about college football when before, the guy in Minnesota couldn't talk to the guy in New Jersey. They didn't know each other and their idiot opinions were like in a vacuum.
Died on a vine.
Right. And now it grows, and that's what the internet did. And not just with this.
It's on TV, dude. I can't stand First Take, or not First Take.
No, First Take is with Stephen A. Smith. Get Up is with they're both.
What's Shannon Sharp and
oh gosh, I don't know what that's called.
It's everyone. Like occasionally Shannon Sharp has something that's good. Most of the time he has stuff that's bad. But like my thing is this: no matter what side it is, good or bad, right? Whether I like it or don't like it, all the detractors of Shannon Sharp run to one side. All the fans of Shannon Sharp run to the other side, and it's like go whatever he says, you know what I mean? And there's no like I look at him like most of the time I don't like most of the things he says, or not that I don't like it, I disagree with a lot of them, but occasionally he says things I do agree with, right? And I'll be like, it's amazing because everyone just runs to their camp no matter what it is, right? Like they just run to their camp, and it goes to your part, like they build so. Something, let's say he says something that's out of his, like, just makes no sense, which happens a lot. He says something that makes absolutely no sense. And all the people that like him just all agree with all the things that make absolutely no sense. I mean, literally, it's like, that made no sense, And it's the same reason where people are like, they attack, you're probably familiar with the Riley Gaines thing, but like, where they're attacking this poor girl, Riley Gaines, because she basically disagreed with, and now she's on a crusade to help women's sports. But she disagreed with the fact that the trans that competed against her, they both won the championship, and then like I guess they had her for social media purposes. Not her. It had Riley, the trans athlete, get the trophy, and she had to wait or whatever it was. So she was very upset. She's now taking a big stance on it. And it's like, I can't believe I hear people on TV just saying that it's okay. Like, dude, if I played basketball, and I didn't play basketball in high school, okay, you put me together for two months as the athlete I was in college, playing basketball, I would be in the WNBA. I would be one of the stars. I'd be dunking over the women. Like, it would be a joke, like, if I decided to become a trans athlete. It's just not fair. This is it has nothing to do with the be trans. I don't care if you want to be trans, you want to be whatever you want. I don't give a crap what you want to be. Be whoever you want to be in this world. I don't care. But I don't think if I had a daughter, I would be very upset if a former man is now competing against my daughter. I would have a huge problem with that.
Yeah.
An enormous problem, and I would fight it to the end. Now, I don't have a daughter. I have a son. Okay, so that's a different situation. But I would be so bothered by it. The fact that people attack her for being bothered by it is crazy. Like, and my thing is like, hey, listen, you want to let Bruce Jenner in his prime decide to be a woman, which he's now Caitlyn Jenner. He said it himself. If Caitlyn Jenner decided when he was the world record holder in
He's my glaring example. He was the greatest decathlete at the time of all time as a man. And now he all of a sudden decided, I can't compete with them anymore. It's 10 years later. You know what? He decided when he was 40, and then he decided to all of a sudden become a heptathlete. He would have been the greatest. He would have made Jackie Joyner Kersey look like nothing, So to me, it's like, it's just craziness. And the fact that all these idiots can get into a room and just say, yes, this is what it should be. It's like, no, that does not make it acceptable just because you wanted to do this. Like, I would never, I would just never let my daughter, I would say that there's a trans athlete. Listen, let them have their own competition. I have no problem with that at all. If they want to, if a woman who wants to go compete with men, hey, listen, obviously that's a disadvantage. If you're a woman and now you become a man and you want to compete with men, that's a disadvantage. You don't have the same advantages that a man has. That's really not an issue. But the other way, a man that becomes a woman, that's clearly an advantage. Clear as the day.
You could get if anybody listened to this podcast, which a lot of people don't, and one person decided to take what you said personally, they could reach a bunch of other people and they could try to cancel you just because of what you said. What you said was,
and I'll tell you why I'm uncancelable, because I'm no longer a football coach at the high school level.
right.
I no longer I run my own business, and
Right.
so I'm uncancelable from that standpoint. But if I was still coaching high school, absolutely. Listen, I had it when I was coaching high school up until a couple of years ago. I can't tell you how many times I had to toe the line because, and these things wouldn't even be like remotely controversial now. But like, let's say, I don't know, it was, the sky was a darker shade of blue one day than the shade that I saw it. Right, slightly slightly different.
Right.
I've had parents that weren't happy with me with something. Contact my school. Do you know that? I've had them contact the school I was a coach at.
Yeah.
And I've had them do it and say, like, this guy, I've had this. I've had a parent that didn't like I gave an MVP to this person. I've had them contact my school. So the greatest thing about not being aligned to anybody at all, right, other than my business, and obviously for the most part, like, even though I do have girl flag athletes and boy flag athletes, but they're young kids, it's my business. So if they don't want to come to my business, they don't want to, come to my camps, they don't want to come to my showcases, blah, 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 blah. That, it is what it is, right?
Yep.
But they wouldn't because of this stand. But my thing is just like, hey, listen, I don't, and the greatest part about it all is I am for people being whatever they want to be. So that's the greatest thing about it, is like, I'm for you being whatever you want to be. I could care less. You could be whatever you want to be. You just don't necessarily deserve to compete with a group because you have different things flowing through you genetically that other people have. Do I feel that you should have a place to compete? Absolutely. If we could get enough people in that situation, absolutely. It's just like, should a robot one day compete with a man? Let's ask that
eventually
question.
Well, with AI, it's eventually going to happen. And again, these people you talk about that have a voice now could influence artificial intelligence, and it could lead to a massive general, nationwide, worldwide opinion that could be divisive and start a war. I mean, that's just the way we're headed. So
honestly, I think it will. I think it will.
The internet is the basis of this. AI
Right.
isn't part of the internet, but the internet kind of ruins everything. And it's now. Do I love the internet? Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't want to not have it. I'm just saying that people wonder why things have been different since the late 1990s versus now. When the simple example is, I drive by a school, behind a school bus, and it's stopping at every house. And I got to stop, and I grumble, like, in my day, I walked 2 miles there and 2 miles back. Well, the internet's changed that. Someone will swipe up a kid in a second because, freaks have told other freaks that it's okay to do that. And it became, more acceptable. Before you hid that freakness in shame.
Mm.
Now you find people who will say, it's okay. I'm one too. And it's okay. And then they're like, oh, okay, let's find more of us. And it just leads to more freakdom. So, but we got to go. It's been forever. So let's wrap it up.
Great. Oh, listen. Well, so go back into football. 5footballcamps.com/D1 promo. Hey, we don't care whether you're a girl or you're a guy. If you're playing football, you can go utilize this promo.
True. We will promote women. Yep, we will.
Well, actually, quick sidebar: flag football for girls is going to be a college sport. Is going to be evaluated, not necessarily by the
my buddy Brian Toll, who used to be a superstar at Don Bosco. I think he's got 3 kids now, 2 boys and a girl. And I said, the boys are going to play football. He goes, all 3 are going to play football. That's just the way it is. So his daughter, I don't know how old she is or anything. She's going to be a superstar flag football player. And that's great. That's awesome. So myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo, myfootballcamps.com/transfer. If you're in the portal and need help, hit us up.
We are glad to help you. Listen, it will make a huge impact. It's changing not just the careers, but really, if you think about it, it's changing the lives of kids in a really positive direction that may not have had the level of opportunity that they're having now. And that, honestly, that's probably the greatest part about all of it, right? You now have scholarship paid for in a lot of these kids' cases that wasn't paid for before. That changes the lives in not just of that athlete, but the family. So that's an incredible part of it. myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo, myfootballcamps.com/transfer. And listen, our DMs are open. You could DM us and ask us questions. We're glad to answer questions about it. I know it's not one of these things where you just see the webpage and go, oh, yes. Ask us a question. We're glad to answer. We'll send you examples of our videos. We'll send, I've sent out a bunch of these kids. They asked me for examples of it. I sent a bunch of examples out. And we're glad to help you with that exact process in whatever way that will help you. Mike,
Yep.
we're good. We'll see you next week.